How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today I'm going to show you guys all the physical media I bought in January of 2026. And yeah, have to be careful to say 2026 and not the old year's name, one of the many little things that January has going for it. I'm from Texas, I really am not a huge fan of cold weather, and on top of all that, this month we got the great ice storm of 2026. You get trapped inside for like a week and all the roads are covered in ice and everybody buys all the bread from the stores. Seriously, I hope you guys stayed safe. All that being said, this is supposed to be a DVD haul video, so let's get into that. I have 16 things to show you guys. They're all DVD this time around, so no Blu-rays unfortunately. But I did find some cool stuff. There were some holes in the collection that I really needed to fill, including a third entry in a trilogy that it was really bugging me that I didn't have. And also there's some cool standalone movies I was glad to pick up as well. A lot of the movies I got this month were from a resale shop. They have really good cheap DVDs, but between the resale shop and like a clearance section, I was able to get a fair bit of these for like $2 a piece. And that's really a bonus, especially when some of these movies are movies that I knew I wanted to have, like little holes that would bug me if they weren't filled in the collection, but they weren't movies that I wanted to spend too much money on. So there are some movies in here that are really good $2 pickups, let me tell ya. But I've talked long enough, let's get into the haul itself. I'll show you guys all the movies I got, and talk a little bit about each one, and you can leave your opinions down in the comments, tell me which movies you liked, which ones you've seen, what did you get this month. But all that being said, without further ado, let's go ahead and switch to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle, taking a closer look at all the DVDs I got for January of 2026. 16 things, they're all DVD. Let's go ahead and jump into it. And let's start off with two things that I'm super excited to show you. These are two films from the Hammer collection. We have Straight On Till Morning and The Reptile. Now, you guys probably know Hammer, classic British horror film studio. Lots of movies with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, and a lot of classic monster films. In America, a lot of them would come over under Anchor Bay, and that's where we get the Hammer Collection banner. These are classic Anchor Bay releases, and I'm super glad to pick up two of them. The first one, Straight On Till Morning, is kind of like metaphorically Peter Pan. Like, it's not really Peter Pan, but it's enough to reference the title. And we get her with this sort of like negative version of this guy behind her. Flip it to the back and they talk about how this is Hammer doing a sort of dark romance, psychological thriller type movie about a young and naive woman who comes to the big city, and the man she falls in love with may or may not be an evil killer. But yeah, they say down here that this was a little bit atypical for Hammer, so it's them kind of going outside of their comfort zone. If we crack it open, there's the disc, and we still have the booklet in this one. I always love a good booklet. There's the original theatrical poster, the chapter selects, and on the inside we get a bit of an essay about this. So yeah, I always do love when they come with a little bit of a write-up. It kind of helps you with the context of the film. Slide that back in. And moving on, and we get The Reptile. I love that cool green tint this thing has. And we get the reptile looming over this lady with a cool classic makeup job there. Flip it to the back and it talks about how there's this guy and he kind of like offended a cult, and the cult puts a curse on his daughter, and the daughter will transform into the reptile and go out and kill people. And they say it's a little bit reminiscent of Bram Stoker's Lair of the White Worm. But yeah, there's the kinda goofy but kinda cool makeup job on full display on the back. Crack it open and there's the disc, same as the front. So yeah, two Anchor Bay Hammer releases. After that's a movie I was super excited to pick up because I had the other two and I just needed the final one to complete my collection. And that of course is Ginger Snaps Back, The Beginning. And once again, we have both girls, Catherine Isabel and Emily Perkins. Now, I heard the plot of the movie, and this is a bit of a weird plot, but basically for the third film, they go all the way back in time, and you get two other sisters, played by the same girl, also encountering the werewolf. So yeah, a period piece prequel? That's an interesting idea. We do get a fair bit of bonus features there. And here we can see both girls dressed up in their old-timey attire. I'm curious how this one will play out. I really liked the first one, but I held off on watching the second till I had both of these. And I have to go watch these two really quick because they seem like they might be pretty fun. And if we crack it open, there's the disc, same as the front. So now I have all three Ginger Snaps movies. And moving on to a fairly big title that I hadn't picked up yet, and that is Zombie Strippers with Robert Englund and Jenna Jameson. Yeah, this is one of those like early 2000s kind of campy, over-the-top, wacky concept movies. And yeah, this was back in the day you do zombie strippers and everyone would hear your title and go, whoa, that's crazy, what's this movie about? And this is of course the special unrated edition, and it's in a former Blockbuster case. The old sticker says $14.99 from Blockbuster. I only paid like $4 for this. Flip it to the back and we get a little bit about a plot. The zombie disease escapes from like a government lab or something and goes to this like underground strip club. And the zombies like keep stripping and they like try to get all the strippers on their team or something. Like they start to win them over one by one and they go and eat the guys or something. If we look at the bottom, we also have cameos from Roxy Saint and Tito Orwitz, and I believe that's actually the girl from Peacemaker there, so that's pretty cool. Cracking it open, there's the disc with the club's logo, and you can see the Blockbuster locking mechanism. So yeah, really cool to have the old Blockbuster case, always good for a bit of nostalgia. Alright, moving into another 2000s horror movie, I picked up Cruel World. And Cruel World actually has Jamie Presley from My Name is Earl and Edward Furlong, who is John Connor in Terminator 2. And this is a reality TV show horror movie. And we get this film strip with scenes from the movie on the front. Flip it to the back, and we get a bit about this movie's plot, and it talks about how Edward Furlong and Jamie Presley were a couple from a dating show. She dumped him on live TV, and he was like super humiliated by it. So now he gets his revenge by kidnapping her and making her watch a reality TV show that he's set up where he's going to like secretly torture the contestants. Yeah, early 2000s reality TV was big, so of course someone had to make a horror movie about it. There's some of the pictures from the movie, and I'd be curious how this one turns out. Crack it open and there's the disc. We get an Anchor Bay disc, so it has the barcode on the disc, which I always find super weird. But there's that film strip again. But yeah, wonder how this one's gonna turn out. I also got another movie for my collection of random vampire movies, and this is Vampire Clan, and it says that this is based on a true story. We get her with the tattoos and the rings, and she's biting this guy's arm. Pretty simple but effective cover. Again, another rental movie that they decided to sell. And no, I didn't pay $10 for this. I think this one might have only been $1. Flip it to the back, we get a big Blockbuster sticker there. But basically what this one says about its plot is that there is a murder and they start to suspect these misfit kids. But the misfit kids claim to be vampires. Is that true or are they just delusional? So yeah, a true crime vampire movie. That's a little bit weird. And we also get the special features being scene selection, trailer, and Spanish subtitles. Yeah, not a huge special feature selection, but apparently they thought it was enough to give it a bubble. Cracking it open, and we do get unique disc art, and I love the idea of all 5 of them kind of peering down at you like you're in a hole or something. Moving right along, up next I actually have 2 Tim Burton movies, but not like the biggest Tim Burton movies ever. I have Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Dark Shadows. Yeah, I do want to have all of Tim Burton's stuff, but I know that there definitely were some B-sides in there. But But again, I found these at a used movie shop, and I was able to get each one for only $2. So yeah, not the best things ever, but I did pick them up for cheap, and this will help me kind of fill that collection. Now, of course, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the second adaptation, obviously nowhere near as good as Willy Wonka. And yeah, I don't know with this one. I don't know if I've ever seen the thing all the way through, but what I remember of it, it's like darker and not as fun, and I get like the ideas they were trying to do, but none of the ideas really seem to match what the old film did. And it's like, well, they were going for something, but it really didn't work. There's the back, and we get to see a little bit more about the movie. There's Johnny Depp, and there's that scene where he's wearing the glasses. And yeah, this is the 2-disc edition, so we get a whole disc of special features there. Crack it open, and there's disc 1 with Willy Wonka. And there's disc 2 with the kid characters. Yeah, not a giant Willy Wonka fan, but definitely worth having and putting in the Tim Burton collection. The other one is the movie adaptation of Dark Shadows. Dark Shadows, obviously this super long soap opera, so it'd be a bit of a challenge to kind of compress it all into a movie, but I like the idea of making like an accessible starting point for new fans. And I did watch this one back when it was in theaters, and I remember thinking it was okay, but again, just another case of not quite working. And the odd thing with this is actually Tim Burton would get this to work when he did Wednesday. Wednesday is kind of the same idea of taking an old show and doing a modern Tim Burton spin on it, and I have no idea why one worked and the other didn't. I mean, I could go back and analyze and probably figure it out, but it is kind of a weird idea. There's the back, and they're going to talk a little bit about the plot, and also, once again, we have Johnny Depp in this movie, because of course it's a Tim Burton movie, and there's a few of the screenshots. Crack it open, and a pretty simple black and silver disc, and it looks like whoever owned the DVD last put their initials on it. I think resellers do that every now and then. I was never a huge fan of it, but I get that they do have to protect what they're selling, so whatever. So yeah, 2 Tim Burton movies in the collection. Moving right along, I have 2 sci-fi films, but boy are they like totally different sides of the sci-fi spectrum. Let's start off with the older one first, and that would be The Day the Earth Stood Still. This is a classic sci-fi movie, and when I saw it in my used media shop, again, pretty cheap, I was like, wait a minute, I don't actually have this one. You guys know I'm a bigger horror fan than anything else, but I do try to pay attention to sci-fi and comedy. And I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's add this one to the collection. I love this sort of motif where you get the main character and the image behind them. And this is from this Fox Studio Classics line. It is number 5 there. And I looked them up online later, and it seems like there was about 30 some odd of these, and they all seem to keep the design template together, which seems super cool, so maybe I'll try to broaden my classics horizon and maybe pick up a few more of these. But yeah, in this one you get this alien that comes down to Earth with this giant robot, and they kind of negotiate first contact knowing this robot's there with all the power. It's been a while since I've seen this one, and I really do need to do a rewatch. That robot there in the spaceship, super iconic. Crack it open and we get a flipper disc, side 1 the movie, side 2 the special features, and it also has a booklet. Slide that out. We get a bit about the actors and the story, as well as a quad poster. The back is the special features, and the inside we get more notes about the movie. We also get an ad for Turner Classic Movies, and there's the back of that one. And slide this back in there. Now moving along, the next one I have is Men in Black 2. I've seen all the Men in Black movies. Obviously the first one is an absolute classic, and I remember liking 3 pretty good as well. 2 is one of those sequels, kind of like Ghostbusters 2, that retreads a lot of the same ground, but it's still pretty good for a laugh. And yeah, I remember this one being okay. We get them in their egg chairs with the little aliens, the big guns, and the dog. I remember really liking the dog as a kid. Back in Black. And then on the back we get a bunch more alien puppets. And the aliens are on the disc. Alright, we just did a sci-fi section. Let's do a comedy section. And again, two very different comedies. First off, we have Ernest Goes to Camp. I think this is actually the first Ernest movie, and I remember really liking this. I remember the camp setting being really, really fun. And whenever they talk about the Ernest movies, the big three are Goes to Camp, Saves Christmas, and Scared Stupid. I remember as a kid liking all of them. But yeah, this one is generally considered to be one of the best ones. Classic painting of all the characters on the front. Flip it to the back, we get some photos from the movie, and some fun little animals there. And the inside gives us a very, very shiny, shiny disc. Now, why Ernest is family-friendly fun, I doubt the same can be said about National Lampoon's Adam and Eve. I really like the National Lampoon Vacation movies, and I have been curious about the other ones. But I know outside of a few big hitters like Animal House and Van Wilder are supposed to be really good, but a lot of the other National Lampoon movies aren't considered to be that great, so I usually just buy them up when I find them in good condition for fairly cheap. And again, I got this in earnest from that resale shop, and I don't think I paid too terribly much for them. Flip it to the back and it talks a bit about this plot, and basically it's a really simple college romantic comedy where the guy Adam is in love with this girl Eve, but she of course doesn't want to have sex with him, and that kind of is like the driving conflict of the film. So yeah, sounds like a really standard plot. And despite the title, the Adam and Eve thing seems to be kind of just stuck on there, kind of randomly with characters' names. No idea if this one's going to be good, but again, filling a hole in my collection for super, super cheap. I think they made like 30 or so National Lampoon movies, so I've got a way to go. I have a little bit of them, not too many, but crack it open. Disc is going to be the same as the front, but at least we got some cool artwork on it. So yeah, 2 sci-fi, 2 comedy. After that, we move into a section I like to call semi-extraneous purchases. These are movies that I had one release of previously, but for whatever reason I thought it was worth getting another. Sometimes it's just me wanting it on a new format, sometimes the edition is just too weird and different, but yeah, somewhat extraneous, but I couldn't pass these up. This first one, again, I found it in a clearance bin for $2, and that is the remake of The Omen. And the Omen movies, I had most of them on this Blu-ray multi-pack. For whatever reason, it didn't have the 4th movie, and I had to get that on a separate DVD. But I had them on Blu-ray, and I'm like, you know what? I do like multi-formats, and I thought, hey, this is like $2, let's go ahead and get a DVD copy of it. We get the kid there, and we get a few moments from the film, and then we get that famous 666 design. But yeah, if you've seen the movie, you know where these two things take place at. And oh yeah, I forgot Mia Farrow and Liv Schreiber were in this movie. We get like a demon on the spine, and then there's the kid at the bottom. And if we flip it to the back, it talks a bit about the plot, and I think the plot for this one is pretty similar to the original, but with a bit more like, you know, over the top and in your face moments. You know, it's a more modern version of that movie. And then we even get some special features here. I don't remember this movie being too bad, but I'm kind of curious how people take it nowadays. But there's the disc with the symbol really big in this Blockbuster case. Now moving right along, the next one is again another dual format purchase. This is a 2-pack of the new It films. I had the It movies on single release Blu-rays, and sadly those didn't have the DVDs in them. And I saw this in the store, again I think it was like $5. It has both movies in one thing, and we also do get this really fun character portrait of Pennywise. I couldn't pass it up. Flip it to the back and it talks about a little bit of the plot for each of the films, and we get the characters as kids versus them as adults. Pennywise up at the top, 2-film collection, and a big credit splash. Cracking it open, we get It and It Chapter 2. Now, sadly, this is kind of a flimsy case. The section behind the disc back there is missing, as well as this section over here. You know how they'll take out like a good chunk of the middle to save on plastic, yeah, this one is like really wiggly wobbly, so I might upgrade this case later. But yeah, now I'm dual format on it, so that is pretty cool. And I hope some of the cast for it comes to conventions, because wouldn't this look really nice with signatures and red marker taking up this negative space? That would be cool. After that, moving on to the final two films, and that is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and 4. So I had the Nightmare movies in multi-packs before, but as I said in the past, I have been trying to get them on single edition DVDs. And the weird thing with Nightmare is they keep wanting to give us the movies in multi-packs, and I'm like, I really like single edition releases. And also a lot of the single editions are those like really bad cardboard snapper cases. So in addition to trying to hunt down the singles, I'm also trying to hunt down regular cased versions of them. But let's take a bit of a look. This is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. We get him with this blue background in the house there. And in this movie, you get this kid who's a bit of a social outcast, and Freddy is like going into his dreams and actually like taking him over. Back when this came out, it had a lot of people who really didn't like it. Freddy's kind of not doing the exact same rules this time around. And we also didn't have Nancy back, which is why we would get a big course correction in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. That being said, over the years, this has developed a huge cult following, and for some people, it's their favorite. And while I don't think it's a bad movie, and I do think it was underrated for quite a while, my favorite Elm Street sequels are always going to be 3 and New Nightmare. The ones with Heather Langenkamp in them are always the best, but still, really good. This one's got disc art of Freddy screaming. I really like individual releases for the individual disc art. And of course we have a chapter insert there. Mini poster on one side, and chapter select on the back. And the very last thing we're going to be taking a look at is Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Yeah, for me, Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5 are okay movies. Freddy's Dead is where they kinda start to go too much off the rails, but obviously 3 was the high point, but I think 4 and 5 are totally okay. It has been a bit since I watched the later sequels though. But we get Freddy there with his arms crossed and his glove prominent, and this screaming face above him, and yeah, $2.99 from Blockbuster back in the day. And there Freddy is on the back, the most popular cinematic maniac since Darth Vader. You know, maybe. Very different characters, odd to compare them, but maybe. And I really like Freddy laughing here. Crack it open, and there he is crossing his arms on the disc. He's got his trench coat on. I can't remember. Does he wear his trench coat in this movie? Is this actually a photo from New Nightmare? I don't know. But let's snap it shut and slide it with part 2 there. One of the things I really am liking about the individual Nightmare releases is this strong red spines. I also think I'll probably swap them out for red cases. That's the way they came out in England, and that will be a really good block of movies on my shelf when I get them all. I still need to find 1 and 5. But all that being said, there we go. 16 movies, filling in some holes that I really needed filling in. I finally got the 3rd Ginger Snaps. I really am super excited about the Nightmare movies, and I was able to fill in some of the Tim Burton B-sides really cheaply. Overall, super glad to pick up everything here. In this month, we really did add a lot of good things to the collection, and I can't wait to see what's going to come for February. Really looking forward to some interesting stuff. Anyway, all that being said, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. And everybody who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my movie hauls playlist. And if you guys really like this series, I think I've done this for 3 years or something crazy like that. So if you click right here, there is a lot more to explore. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Playlist down here. Have a good day now.